Welcome to the Great Lakes Fishing Podcast. Today, it is a double episode. We've got two different guests. We've got Tom Miranda. He's going to talk Lake Erie perch fishing, and Tom is on them out there on Lake Erie. And then we got John Breedlove. And I don't know if you've ever heard of John or not, but he is dialed in on the Lake Erie steelhead. He's fishing rivers late in the season. And if you've never, maybe you're a little worried about getting out on the big water, you want to get your feet wet and chasing some silverfish, this is going to be a really, really cool show for you, because John really gets into the details and the nitty gritty on how he catches these Lake Erie steelhead in the river. So let's go to the interviews. These are interviews that I filmed back in Niagara in February, but some really, really good information for those of you wanting to get out and catching some fish out in Lake Erie this year.
Well, for the folks at home, this is Tom Miranda from Pole Dancer Fishing.
Liking it.
Yep. He's one of the big competitors out here on the Western Basin. Also, recently, last couple of years, got your captain's license.
Captain's license now, doing my charters.
Doing some charters.
Perch, walleye, salmon up in Ontario in the spring.
Yeah.
It's going well. It's been great. Enjoying it. Meeting new people. I love taking people out that have never really seen it, never been on the Great Lake. You know, they think they've going out there and just show them some stuff and make some smiles, create some memories.
Yeah, it's awesome. That's awesome.
You've been doing some seminars today?
A couple seminars.
Yesterday?
Did perch yesterday, perch today. Yeah, went well. Just showing what we do a little bit different than other people, you know.
Yeah.
Tricks of the trade. And, you know, last year I was out on that lake in March, early March, April. It's going to be late this year, but I'm itching. So
Tell me about that. You sit in these seminars, you're talking perch. What goes into one of those perch seminars?
We'll go through the whole thing. We'll start with, like, you know, a couple days before you're going out fishing. You're going to go look at the weather. You're going to look at apps. You're going to call friends. You're going to call bait shops. Look, we're here to show. I share all the information with everybody. I give out my number to them. Say, call me, do this, do that. That's the first process, doing that. Second thing, finding your bait. Bait's getting harder and harder to find.
Sure is.
You know, emeralds are, you know, pretty abundant. Hopefully in the spring. Fall, they're tough, but I've been having no problem with my fatheads. I've been very, very surprised how they've been great, and they last. They're not as just delicate as the emerald. And breaking it down, we use something a little different on our lines. We use a sabiki rig, a saltwater rig.
Okay.
That a friend turned me on to about 8 years ago. Mainly used down, you know, in off Florida, the Keys, to catch your bait. We use them in that. It's got that little fly on it, and boy, it's changed what we do and how we do it. And you know, price point $1.90 for there's 6 points off them. I cut them. I make 2 or 3 out of them. So something just a little different. Bait, boy, they've been anywhere this year. They were deep early. Anywhere from 55. I was out to 72 feet catching perch.
Wow.
You know,
And are they suspended? Are they on the bottom?
They're on the bottom. They're on the bottom. You know, a little bit off. I found a couple schools, maybe a foot or 2 off. But for the most part, you know, I'm driving around. I'm impatient. Probably just like this guy.
Maybe.
I'm not waiting. I'm zipping around 20, 30 miles an hour. Once I find a little blip, go back, hit my waypoint. I'll go back over that, slow down and look at it. It was bait. Move on. I'll go an hour and 45 minutes before I put a rod in the water. I have no problem. My clients get a little antsy.
Yeah, they want to fish.
I'm like, do you want to catch perch, or we could just sit here all day with nothing under us? We could do that if you want. Maybe catch a perch, but no, I'm hunting them. You know, it's not the old days of perch fishing, and we'll catch sometimes small pods of fish and catch 4, 5, 6 out of it. They're off the screen. I'm going to look for them and move again. You know, I'm hunting them. It's different. It is literally, and once in a while you can get that school and you can see what direction they're moving. Just move up 20, 30 feet, stay on them. Or also they're gone, you scroll around and try again.
So are you hitting them with forward-facing sonar then? Is that
I do not have forward-facing sonar on my boat yet. No, I am.
So you're just moving
around
around.
my Lowrance. I'm moving around, doing circles. You know, I'm fine. You know, I try not to go near the packs. You know, I try to find my own school of fish. If I have to, I'll get near them, but I'll creep in on them. I'm not going to bother everybody.
Yeah.
You know, turn off your main motor if you guys are coming in. Don't blow out the pot.
Yeah.
You know, we all see it happen. Just come in with your front motor. You know, be quiet with it and have some fun with it. It's all about just having fun.
What's the size structure of the perch you guys are going after?
This spring, they were big. In March, I was catching between 11.5 to just under 15 was a good average for a while. Later in the spring they got a little smaller where we were finding trouble finding some of the bigger schools.
Mhm.
Fall was good, not as good as my spring, but a lot of wind this fall.
Yeah.
A lot of wind. But you know, I'm very lucky where I live, right down on the lake, and I look out at the lake. Lake's flat. I got 2 hours. I'm going out by myself. I don't care.
Yeah.
Yeah,
What does the day look like as far as numbers? How do you guys do out there?
we've done good this year. Like I went out on Easter by myself,
Mm-hmm.
and once I got on him, I called my buddy up and go, "What are you doing?" He goes, "I'm free." I went picked him up at the dock. We came out. We caught our 100.
Yeah.
Nice fish. Cleaned them up. I went out there in the eclipse, the beginning of the eclipse before it peaked. I only had a couple in the boat. Went out after, went right back, started searching again, and there they were. Don't know where they were before. It wasn't
Yeah.
far from where I was. Out there by myself, there was one other boat, some guys from Illinois. I waved them in, said, "Come on in,
Yeah.
get closer, get close." And they were happy because they were out since 6 in the morning
Oh my gosh.
and they only had 8 or 9 fish.
Wow.
When they came to the dock with me later, they were like, "Thank you, thank you." I'm like, "Take my card, call me up. You guys came a long ways
Yeah.
to come play in our backyard."
Yeah.
So
What is the limit where you guys are at, Chris? Is
Boy,
it 50 per person?
It's getting tighter and tighter.
Okay.
I mean, a lot of the lakes that we fish are 10.
Really?
So we've
That's our
got
perch drop.
we got 10 fish lakes, we got 25 fish lakes, but really the lakes that have good size fish on it now are getting to be 10.
Okay.
So you go out and fish on the river, you're looking at 25.
25.
Yeah.
I think, Tom can attest to this is, our resource here in Lake Erie is a lot different on our end compared to that western end. And we know that there is a difference in limits.
Yeah, I think it's 25.
Is starting to change a little bit. Yep. And I think, 50 per person per day.
It's a lot of fish.
That's a
You
lot
are
of
moving
fish.
a lot of fish out of there, especially in the spring. The females are all just loaded with eggs. I take them out there in my arm, and I'm just looking at my hands going, the waste. But I don't know. Our resources here say keep taking them. They're there.
Which is funny because I know that we do have in Barcelona
Mm-hmm.
a fish harvesting company. We've got nets that are down that we try to avoid at all costs, right?
All costs to sneak up on you.
There's a story for you. But anyway, going back to that, we do have a small limited amount of professional and we'll call it commercial grade, harvesting of these perch and walleyes. And, I know it's a lot more popular on the Canadian side,
Mm-hmm.
and we're sharing this resource. So I know that those, DNRs and the ministries and our DEC, they do talk and do go back and forth with each other about, how things are going. And there's some studies out there that, I would be interested to see what these numbers are. I mean, we talk walleyes all the time, but these perch are really sought after.
Mm-hmm.
Guys want to come and catch these golden fillets of yellow perch. As we all know, they're sweeter tasting, and a lot of times they're easy to pull out of the freeze and fry up. But what do you think, on average would be your typical client day? Are you always getting limits, or there's some days?
We're not always getting.
Okay.
No. I mean, if I'm getting each one of my clients 30, they're happy, I'm happy.
That's 60 fillets per person. That's a lot.
Yeah. So they're good, they're happy. And a lot of times, I'm just bringing them out there. They're doing their thing, using, I've had a couple want to bring their own rods. That's fine. Do what you want.
Mm-hmm.
Most of them use my stuff. And, I'm just there picking up the minnows, doing this, putting them away. They just don't have the boat, the resource to get out on the water to do that, or the time to take the time to keep finding them and be on them day after day. When we're out there day after day, you have a great starting point. Sometimes you can put them to bed and come back in the morning, they're there. Other times they're not far, or then you're like, okay, it blew for 3 or 4 days. Let's start from scratch.
Yeah.
But even with the 50, I'd be happy with them going down to
30
a person.
Yeah.
50 is a lot. 50 is a lot to,
Lot to clean.
I was gonna say sometimes cleaning
Way to go,
longer than
Cap.
catching.
Yeah.
Better have a good mate.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, yeah. But no, where I live, I got videos of I'm right on the launch going to the town of Hanover boat launch, right on the main drag, and I got videos of them lined up on a Saturday when I hear them all talking and I didn't want to go or don't have a charter. And they're lined up for an hour, hour and a half, and the parking lot's jam packed.
Mm-hmm.
People love their perch.
Yeah.
It's been a long winter. They want to get out chasing them.
Yeah.
And this year, I can't imagine when it's time. They're
It's
going to
time.
be.
Yeah. A little cabin fever going on.
We'll be going.
Yeah.
Sure.
I work with some of the charter guys down in Chicago, and I'll talk to my buddies like, yeah, we're going to go salmon fishing down there. And they'll be like, well, Let me know when they're catching perch down there. 'Cause
Yeah,
that's what I would.
They
Yeah.
do. They love it, love it, love their perch. And I didn't realize how many people love perch until I started getting into doing the charter business and talking to people. And they're like, "Oh, perch? Wait, because you walleye go, oh, you do perch charters?
Mhm.
Give me a card, give me a call." And they call.
Yeah.
They're booking. I did quite a few charters last year. I'm
Are you-
changing things up, doing more of them.
Yeah. Do you guys do vertical jig for these guys then?
Pretty much vertical jig I'm doing. Once in a while I'll pop out to the side, but
Mhm.
I'm pretty much doing right down at the bottom, vertical jigging, right on top of them. And like I said, once that screen goes blank, I don't give it long.
Yeah.
5 minutes.
We gotta make
that's it.
make
That's
another
it.
rip somewhere else.
Shake and bake.
Yeah. All right, let's talk a little walleye fishing. That's something
Sure.
something else you do. Tell me about kind of where you fish when you're chasing walleyes.
Well, it depends. Early in the year, in this we're structured here in Buffalo. I go to Buffalo. I'll launch out of Buffalo. I like that shallower water. Buffalo seems to hold more fish early in the spring. I think we're getting those bigger fish coming out of the river, coming to feed. A lot of the guys are realizing, especially some of the derbies we do, they're doing a lot of that nighttime fishing for some of these bigger fish at night. And but we have some structure there, a lot more structure it seems down in Buffalo. Little slag piles from these steel plants, and those fish are staying right around them, feeding on those gobies more. Sure you've seen it. The walleye we catch in the spring, they're spitting up gobies. That's what they're after.
Yeah, we do have a larger population of local fish staying now, because we have these shell beds too from our zebra mussels. And so we've got spawning ground in places we never had it before. So I think things are changing on our end. We're getting some warmer water from some creeks, 18 Mile and the Cat, they do feed some of those spawning grounds. So we are seeing a little bit more of a return, but our DEC also says that our majority of our fish are coming from the west. So, early season, Tom, you guys are up in Buffalo. We're usually in Buffalo, or we're down waiting for them to cross the
We're
PA line.
right at the border there. Jump out of Barcelona, head west, get near the line, and are they there or are they not? We all know enough people to make some calls and hear they're moving. They're coming. But
Exactly.
no, that's a start in Buffalo. And then again, once they're out front of Cattaraugus Creek, it's my hometown. That's where I go.
Yeah.
And I try not to trail their boat too far if I don't have to.
Yeah. You're down there fishing. You're trolling down there.
And absolutely,
Cattaraugus,
Cattaraugus. Yeah, we're that time of year is usually we're getting into July, August, September.
Yeah.
And bottom bouncing right out front too.
Mhm.
I'm more and more into that, learning it, and someone's teaching me more and more.
Trying.
It's
tough.
help. We all talk, we all help each other out.
Yeah.
See what works out. But different clients, they can't reel in those long leg core wire lines. The younger kids, the older gentlemen, women, and we just get them on those fish, bottom bouncing, and they're happy. They just want to feel that tug. Little easier for them. I'm out, in 45 feet of water, so I have 60 feet of line out.
Mhm.
Just bottom bouncing, just 4 lines, 4 rods, nice and easy.
Yeah. I think the one thing too about this end and some of the charter captains, since we don't have as many fish catching opportunities throughout the year, we end up learning a lot more from our captains because they have to work a little harder, right? And so with that being said, to jump on Tom's boat and go with him and 12 to 15 fish day early season is probably a really good
That's
day
a
for a
great
lot of
day.
guys.
Yep.
And so, not getting a 36, 48 fish limit, like they do in the Western Basin, it's kind of a nice change of pace. It's more of an educational trip with Tom. It's, hey, we're going to put these bottom bouncers out because we're marking fish on the bottom. Hey, we're going to start to raise some things up because we're seeing fish up higher. Like, how would you gauge a day if, here comes this family of 4 to the dock and they say, hey, Tom, listen, we want to catch a few fish. We understand that this is about catching walleyes, but you ever gone like, hey, I know where there's a bunch of sheephead just to get some bites?
It depends on the day. If
Sure.
I feel I can't get them that quick limit or
Yep.
limit even of walleye, I just want something for them to reel in, take some pictures with, to put back, to create some memories. I'll play in those shallows.
Sure.
Those sheephead. You know what? They're not easy to
I
pick
know
up.
it.
On
I
some
know it.
tackle, they pull, they tug. Then all of a sudden you see your line going up towards. Oh, look, there's a nice pass.
Yep.
They're
Exactly. We do have kind of a mixed bag down here, and the steelhead fishing's getting
the
better.
steelheads more and more this year. It's the most steelhead I've caught this year.
Yeah.
In that area.
Yeah, we're going to be talking steelhead here in just a little while. We got a guy coming on to talk some steelhead with us.
Good deal.
But I mean, the other thing, we went out of Dunkirk I don't know, it was probably 3 or 4 years ago, and it was just the walleyes weren't cooperating, and captain just let's go out a little bit further, and we picked up some Lakers, and I think we
Cool.
couple of steelhead, and same thing. Just let's go catch some fish.
Yeah.
Can't catch any walleyes today. Let's go catch some
Well,
fish.
especially if you get a blow for 2 or 3 days, a northeast. We went out there before the wall over there. You go out there, the screen's blank, then you just have a blank look on your face. What am I going to do?
What are you gonna do?
And then you go, all right, you kind of hopefully find some Lakers.
Yeah.
You know, the water flipped. You know, cold water moves in. You know, and it changes your plans real quick.
Yeah.
Real quick. And the Lakers, yeah, you get a couple Lakers. You're not gonna get your 15, 20 Lakers, but boy, you get 2 or 3 each.
Yeah.
They're
Oh,
some
there's
surprise, you know.
there's some big fish out there too. There's some dandies
Yeah.
for sure,
Yeah.
for sure.
Fun to catch. Now you guys do a little fishing together. Tell me a little bit about kind of your relationship and how you guys hang out and do your thing together.
No, we'll let you start with that one.
Yeah, I know we met Tom just through fishing local tournaments,
Mm-hmm.
and you know his team Pole Dancer, just funny name. So obviously you get together and
Yeah.
raise a glass every once in a while after a tournament.
It happens.
Having some mutual friends in the area, they kind of live together. Live in the same area now, and with Tom though, what I've always kind of been very jealous of is their note taking on their team. They're a very, very technologically advanced group that sits in and has a gentleman with a laptop
Mm-hmm.
and keeps track of a ton of data.
Yeah.
And so, learning from a guy like Tom and his team, they went out and won a tournament just based on old memories of data that they had collected over the years and said, hey, we got nothing else going. Let's look at our maps. Let's go to what we know, and it was just an unbelievable story where they just went back to just old memories and figured out, hey, this time of year, at this temperature, at this depth, this is how we caught them. And there they were.
Mm-hmm.
So that attests to a lot of their success here. They've, last year you guys cashed quite a few
We
checks.
did. In fact, every derby or tournament we were in, we cashed a check last year.
That's
Something I'm very
outstanding.
proud of, right? It may not have been a big check. It may not even covered my expenses for the week, but we cashed a check. So that means we're in the top percent. And going against, a lot of these teams around here, there is some phenomenal teams. And if I could do that consistently, me and my team, we're doing something right.
Absolutely. And
Yeah.
now that you're getting back into the fishing education and teaching about perch fishing, and guys know this group of teammates that Tom is with, and everybody's always looking to see how they can better their program, and we always have looked at Tom and said, hey, what can you do differently? And it definitely helped me back in 22, and got us into that top 10 on day 3. We figured a little something out together in practice, and a little practice afternoon that we went out, and Tom said, hey man, I've got a couple of these things rigged up. Take what's mine, and mine's yours, and yours is mine. So it worked out really good. And I think that's the cool thing about this Eastern Basin group is, there's a number of us that like to share, and it's tough to
Absolutely.
find that everywhere.
Mhm.
And we're just promoting that. If people see us leading by example, maybe that spreads a little bit further. And the next time someone thinks twice about holding some information, not that we're going to take advantage of that information, but
No.
hey guys, listen, here's where they are. Go have
Yeah.
some fun.
Yeah, and
we
both know it. Everybody knows it. We could tell you where we are, what we're doing, and they could come next to you and try to mix. Sometimes they just can't do it in their boat.
Exactly.
Whether it be because it's a big boat or their boat just fishes a little different. They're like, we're watching you. We're right next to you. We're watching you net fish after fish. You tell me you're using harnesses. You're telling me this. You're telling me your depth. You're telling me your speed. But maybe we're doing something a little different. I can't even pinpoint it to tell them to put fish in a boat, or it could be the other way. I'm watching the person next to me. I'm like, what are they doing?
Absolutely.
But like you said, sharing. I mean, when I came down to fish with Craig and the pre-fish 4-year championship, I came down actually to look at the house I bought,
Yeah.
and I was calling. I was
Yep.
over at our friend Jeffy's house, and
Yep.
it's kitty corner almost to where I am, and I'm like calling my realtor. I'm like, hey, I need to look at this house. It's not going to last.
Yeah.
So it brought me right down in that whole community and everybody down there.
Very cool. Tom, if people want to find out more about you or maybe go perch fishing with you, how do
Yeah,
we get a hold of
perch,
you?
walleye, salmon even. Get hold of me. I'm on Facebook. You get hold of me. Phone number 716-531-6683. Shoot me a text, call me. I'm on, like I said, I'm not a big Instagram or none of that, but I do, what is it?
Facebook.
Facebook.
Yep.
Yeah.
I'm on that, Pole Dancer Sport Fishing. Right on there. Follow us. Shoot me a message through their messenger. But yeah, love that. And even if you got people coming in from out of town, get a hold of me. I'll let you know what's going on. I'll say, don't bother. The lake flip. Wait 3 days.
Yeah.
Right.
I hate to see
Right.
people come in out of town, spend their money and resources
Correct.
in a hotel and just food and just look at the lake.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I know you always put out a really good report on the lake too. So Pole Dancer Sport Fishing on Facebook's been great.
Yep.
You know, it saves me an hour and 45 minutes, and I can always get the hotline down to Tommy. How are the waves looking?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
Don't
they're
bother.
crashing over the pier. Go
Stay
back to
home.
bed. Yep.
Yeah.
So it's been very helpful, but really appreciate you being around in the group. And man, I'm telling you what, it's just nice to have good, reliable people in this industry that we can always call and rely on. And Tom's one of those guys. And thanks for being here today, man.
Yeah,
Appreciate you.
everybody.
Yep, for
You know,
sure.
like I said, this is what I'm looking for right now. You know, we got some time to kill, so we got a couple more shows coming up.
Yep, you got
Very
it.
good.
Great.
Tom,
Got it.
appreciate
All right,
you
thanks,
stopping
guys.
by, man.
Thanks,
Thank
brother.
Fun
Always
having you
nice
on the
seeing you.
show.
Yep. Anytime, and we'll see you soon.
All right, Tom Miranda, everybody. John, tell us about yourself.
Steelhead fish. I love the steelhead fish. Been doing it probably since late teens. The first time I ever trolled for any, be it salmon or steelhead, was on the Grand River in
Okay.
Ohio. The very first year I went was the last year of the return of the salmon before Ohio quit doing it.
Okay.
It just didn't work. In fact, I talked to Mark Romanek, and he asked me what I thought the reasoning why it didn't work. And I said, because, you know, just like there's steelhead, but up there you guys have Cisco's and alewives. All we have is shad and emerald shiners. And even the ODNR says that the emerald shiners and the shad don't have the protein in them like the Cisco's and the alewives do to produce the big fish. You know, up in Michigan, they get big. You know, the manatees get pretty big. The Skamanians get pretty big. Down here, you know, we don't get a lot over 10 pounds, but we do get some. But it also seems like the size of the fish fluctuates with the amount of bait fish.
Okay.
I'm friends with the ODNR, so I've been to a couple of the steelhead summits, and like one of the steelhead summits I went to, there was a guy complaining about the size of the fish, and I raised my hand, and the courtesy, our local whatever, pointed me, and I said, the thing is, I said, for years when I've been trolling for steelhead, one of the first things I'm looking for when they first come in is I'm trolling the breakwalls. I'm looking for the emerald shiner. I'm looking for the schools of baitfish because I know wherever they're at, the steelhead are going to be at. And I said, there for a couple of years, I said, them balls of baitfish were small or next to none at all. I said, but this last year, and I said, this year, I said, there's been huge schools. I said, it seems like the population's really coming back. And I said, so you should see the fish size go back up again. And it did. You know, just like anything, you know, if you don't have anything to eat, you're not going to get any bigger. But like I said, the Cisco's and alewives will grow bigger fish. Like that's why the salmon programs work good in Lake Ontario and work good in, you know, Michigan and Huron, but it doesn't work good in Lake Erie because the Cisco alewife population is very small.
How did you get into this, John? You told me that you started in the teens.
Yes.
And you're
Which is
not
like
like
2 or 3
20
years
years
ago?
old. I mean, that was like six years ago. So how did you get into this?
You know, I've always fished my entire life as a kid, you know, was growing up. And one of the things is, you know, up here, since you have Lake Ontario, you're pretty close, Bill Sayef Outdoors. Channel 45, 49, which was a public station back in Ohio where I'm from. Bill Sayef had a show on every week, and me and my brother would watch that, you know, and we grew up catching bluegills and you catch, you know, crappies and stuff like that. And we would see Bill catch, you know, these big salmon and stuff. We just thought, you know, that was something. We want to do that one day, you know. So when were able to borrow a boat from a friend, that's when we started fishing for the salmon the last year of the return. And then Ohio went to their own strain of steelhead, which was the I can't remember, the London strain.
Okay.
But they weren't stocking them in the numbers that they are stocking them now. And then the London strain was a fall run fish, which he would show up at the end of August, Labor Day, and then they would be a fall spawner and they would be done. So actually it has worked out great that they've got away from that. And now they use the Manistee. They use, I don't know what the strain is out of Wisconsin. They use them. They'll use the Shasta strain and even the PA strain. They'll get some eggs off of Pennsylvania. So you'll stagger and overlap the returns. So you actually get they come in at this year they came in at Labor Day and they probably won't go out till Mother's Day. So it's actually made out better because you get an extended season out of it. You know.
You're on Lake Erie. Everybody else in the world, when they go to Lake Erie, they're fishing for walleyes. and you're like, nope, I don't want to do that. I want to chase steelhead. What is it about steelhead that gets you excited?
I mean, I walleye fished for years. My favorite thing is to go wading for them. But one of the worst things that messed up the wading part for the local lakes for me is the zebra mussel. They cleared up the water. The weeds started growing. You know, they never grew past 3 or 4 feet before the zebra mussel. Once the zebra mussel came, it cleared the water out. The weeds grow out to 9, 10 feet now. And it kind of ruined wading for them in the spring. On a sunny day, if I can see my feet, there ain't no walleye kind of come within casting distance, you know.
Yeah.
They're going to come in the low light periods. That's what, you know, they don't like the bright light. So kind of got away from the walleye because of whatever and got the bass, but the steelhead have always been there. It's always been my passion. Nothing fights like it. You know, it's a blast to catch them. They come out of the water, they jump, the fight. You know, I like walleyes, but if you ever go on a charter boat, what do? They want you to get it to the top, and they want you to reel real fast, and they want you to surf it in.
Yeah.
What fun is that? You know, and some guys will, you know, even some of the guys I know will troll for them, and they'll try to bring them in still moving, but I don't. If I bring one of you with me or whatever, I'm going to tell you, here, I'm going to hand you the rod. If you have to loosen the drag up, you once, let them do whatever you want. Give me a minute. Get these other rods in, put the boat in neutral, put it on spot lock, and now you get to have fun fighting the fish.
Okay. Yeah.
You know, and that's the fun part, is fighting the fish. You know, I had a friend that told me that smallmouth fishing was great. He says, but I want to try steelhead. So I took him steelhead, and the very first fish we caught, he's like, John, it's not fighting. Just wait a minute.
Yeah.
I said,
Give
it
it a
ain't
minute.
seen the boat, and it ain't seen the net yet. Wait till it sees the boat or the net. I said, you're going to be bowing to him before you're done. Next thing you know, I stick that net out of there, and that thing took off, and he was bowing to it. And he's like, holy mackerel. I said, exactly. I said, you know, I said, a lot of times they'll do that. They kind of come in until all of a sudden it's like, hey, wait a minute. I'm not going near that boat, and I'm not going in that net,
Right.
you know.
Tell me about the boat. What are you running for boat?
My boat's a 1990 C-Nymph. It's a BT 175. It's a back troller. I have a 40-horse Mercury on the back with the troll control handle on it. The best money I ever spent was that troll control handle. I can idle that motor down to 800 RPMs, lock the steering in straight, finish my speed out with the tear over on the front, and I can sit. I use Akuma line counters. I'll loosen them drags up, put the clickers on. I can play on my phone. I can eat snacks. I can do whatever. I just wait for the clicker to go.
Drag to wake you up.
Craig, it sounds like you and John might become buddies. I keep looking over and you got a big smile on your face.
You know, it's funny. You know, steelhead to us as walleye fishermen has always been the nuisance. However, we did target them back in the day. I used to salmon fish and steelhead fish quite a bit, but there is nothing better than having a steelhead hit a line. I mean, you know it's a steelhead. It's like a firecracker. So I get the excitement. I understand it. But how many of these you catch in a day? I mean, can you catch 10, 12 a day? I mean, what's a typical day?
My best day ever by myself was 50.
Oh, by yourself.
By myself was 50 in one day.
Jeez.
I've had many, many mid-30s by myself. In fact, just before the big snow in November, I went 4 out of the last 5 days, but just before the big snow came, the 3, 4, 5, 6 feet, each day, 30-some fish seen in
Wow.
each day.
But you're not fishing deep. This is shallow.
Yes, I'm fishing shallow.
Okay. So you're not far offshore.
This year was probably the first year in 10 years I've been more than 100 yards from the lighthouse.
Wow. That's cool.
I'm never more than 100 yards from the lighthouse. Never. I'm either on the inside of the walls, the outside of the walls, or in around, inside the harbor. Or if you've ever been to Conneaut, there's a slip, and then the mouth of the river is in the slip. But I take what it gives me because
Sure.
the winds. You never know. And there's times where it could be even a windy day, but you got to know where you're fishing at and how it faces. Because, like, say I'm going to get a hard southwest wind, I know at Conneaut I can go still fish the outside of the east wall. Or I'm going to get a brisk south wind, I still know I can get on the outside of both walls because the west wall is on an angle like it goes in like a northeast direction. So I can still fish the outside of them. So knowing how the walls face and knowing which way the wind comes, then I can, dictate where I can go and what I can fish, what I can't fish.
So what are you using to target these fish?
I would say the number one lure I use is Acme Little Cleos. That's probably the number one lure I use most of the time. I do use the KO wobblers. I do use shad wraps, jointed shad wraps, flicker shads. I'll tell you what, the jointed flicker shad, very good lure. The jointed flicker shads are a very good lure. I run some other Rapala lures. Mag lips, I will run mag lips. Mag lips are usually my go-to when that temperature is down below 40. You know, when I'm trying to do 1.5, 1.7, then, you know, I'm really running jointed, whatever, something with a lot of action and a slow speed. Because you can't run a spoon at 1.5, it's going to just fall down on you. You know what I'm saying? You're just not going fast enough. So that's another thing. And then another thing, the last 2-3 years, flutter spoons on snap weights. I've been doing that, and one of the things that works the best for me is 30-30 on a 3-ounce weight. And I've told people, and people got back to me and said, yes, John, that works very good.
Those are out on boards?
I can run boards, but I don't run the boards all the time because it all depends. If I'm doing good with, I'm going to tell people. One of the reasons I don't like to run boards, especially when I'm fishing the outside of the walls and they're tight to the walls, is because it pushes me off the wall too far.
Gotcha.
I'd rather run tighter to the wall and then have all my lines right with the boat.
In control, yeah.
And I can stay tighter to the wall. If I run one planer board and run out, it's pushing me off the wall. And the steelhead will use the wall as an ambush point. They'll push the bait fish towards the wall, and then the bait fish have nowhere to go. So I like to troll very tight to the wall.
So you're also probably seeing a lot of current there as well, correct? I mean, that's what positioning that bait, or doesn't really, I mean, does a wind direction
You know, on the outside,
put them on one side of the wall or the other? Or?
on the outside of the walls, the current isn't really doing so much of anything. It's just the bait fish are following up and down the wall. Now, when the river does have, we do get rain and the river is pushing current out, yes, it can dictate, you know, because Conneaut, it comes out, it hits the east wall first, and then it bounces off, and then it, you know, goes over to the west wall. So them points are very good over there. The current will work, you know, there. But on the outside of the wall, it isn't so much as it is trying to find any irregularity in the wall. The ends of the wall is great. On the west wall at Conneaut, down about 150 feet, the wall sunk, and when it sunk, it slid out. So it made a point that's down about 10 feet. So I always catch fish when I go by that. Go down the wall a little bit farther, there's a bend in the wall. Right there is a very good spot. So anything irregular in the wall is a very good place, you know.
What time of year are you doing this?
Usually start maybe mid-September. And then in the last couple of years, maybe mid-September, a good day for September was maybe 3 fish and maybe lose 2. But this year, if you remember, it right around Labor Day, we had like a week of really cool weather, and we had one little rain. And that one little rain and that cool weather brought them in, and there was a bunch. I was starting out catching 10, 15 right off the bat a day. You know, doing very well.
That's great.
The other thing you were showing me earlier is that you use a water wolf underwater camera.
Yes.
Tell me about that and how you deploy that.
If anybody wants to, they can go to John Breedlove Steelhead on YouTube. There's at least 3 videos in there for my water wolf. What I do is I have the water wolf on there. The line going to the water wolf is 15-pound line. The water wolf to the lure is only 12. So at least I got some give there. But I'm only running that camera 18 inches above the spoon. And I have run some cranks behind it, and it works very well. But I'm surprised the fish aren't bothered by it. You know, they don't seem bothered by it at all. And then the one video I showed you is actually a steelhead hitting the lure from the front, missing it, going a couple feet past the lure, stopping on a dime, turning around, and coming and getting, you know, nailing the lure. So that was pretty neat to see how he could stop, come back, even though that lure is still moving away from him, and catch up to it and get it.
Yeah. That video, how is that, going back and watching that, has that changed how you fish at all?
Well, there's another video I have on YouTube where actually a steelhead misses it 3 times till he finally gets it to the 4th time. So one of the things is if you see the rod move, don't touch it. You know, a lot of times you'll have a tendency, oh, it must be a weed or something, or I missed it, I better bring it in case something's wrong. Leave it out there. You know, maybe after a minute or 2, if nothing happens, bring it in. If you want to check it. But they will come back, and they'll, you know, if they're hungry, if they missed it, they're going to come back. Maybe not once, maybe not twice. Like I said, in the one video, finally got it on the 4th try.
Lionel Richie said once, twice, 3 times a lady. You got to go 4.
You got it.
You got to
Yeah,
go 4.
I'm more interested, like, how are you cooking these? If you're, I mean, are you a big eater of these steelhead?
No,
I mean,
not at all.
I've got some friends that love to smoke these things.
Mhm.
And when we kept our first big steelhead out of Lake Erie, down out of Cranberry, we were fishing the Fall Brawl. My buddy Mike Urema, he smoked. He said it was the best tasting steelhead he's ever eaten.
A
So
lot
if
of
you've got a
people-
recipe to change my weight, tell me.
I don't eat them. I just, it's to me, it's the fun of catching them.
Okay.
You know, and every time, you know, my one buddy, he goes in his, we always say we're fishing together, but he's in his boat and I'm in my boat. And the reason we do that is we can cover more water. Say today we launch and you say, okay, the lake is able to get on, or the river is able, both are able to get on. Hey, I'm going to go upriver and I'm going to check it out. Okay, I'm going to go out in the lake. And then we just call each other. But we talk all day. Hey, what are you doing good on this, or what color here, or whatever there. But you know, the fun part is, especially when I either make, a lot of my lures are made by me, or I have my friend airbrush them. But a lot of them I've been doing myself using WTP lure tape.
Oh yeah. Yep.
You know, Acme does a great job of making the spoons in a lot of colors, but there's colors that I would like. Or, you know, there's blue and chrome, but hey, what about blue, or what about chrome and blue prism tape? How's that work? So I buy the lure tape, and the nice thing about it too is you can put it on there. If it doesn't work, you peel it back off and you start over again.
Yeah.
Whereas if I have lures painted, then you're kind of stuck with that, you know, unless you want to sand it back off. But I play with a lot of, in fact, a lot of my flutter spoons, some of them are exterminator lure, but the rest of them, I bought them from Lake Erie Walleye Candy. You ever hear of them? And they will sell them either in gold finish, hammered, or chrome, or in hammered chrome. And then I make them the color I want. And, you know, everybody likes to make all these different colors on there. And a lot of mine, it just looks like a big, giant little Cleo. Hey, if blue and chrome works, I'm going to make a bigger one.
Yeah.
You know, if the hammered one works good, I'm just going to make a bigger one, you know. And it's been working very well.
So you start in September. When do you kind of hang it up for the year?
When I can't get boat and water anymore. And then I'm calling everybody mother and brother, trying to, you know, nice thing about calling out in the harbor, there's a camera that looks right at the launch ramp. So when it's froze solid, I know it. But like Ashtabula, the launch ramp on the lake, it's, once you get into late November, it's so silted in that you can't, it's maybe a foot deep. So you have to go launch in the river at Kisters, and I don't have any eyes on that. So some people I've learned live near there, and they'll drive by and look for me.
Yeah.
You know, so that's one of the things I just contact. If I can't get any more, then I just, you know, wait till we get a thaw or something.
Yeah.
But right now you can go steelhead, or you can go ice fishing for them. The only reason I haven't been up yet is because I had surgery a couple weeks ago. So me trying to drill a hole was not good. I had hernia surgery, so I got to behave myself. Is the only reason. But right now at Conneaut, you can go out in front of the gas pump, over around the docks, drill holes, fish for steelhead. It's a blast on a 3-foot rod.
Yeah.
I can imagine.
All right. Well, what do you do in June then? Because just based on the conversation I had with you earlier and this one we're having right now, you seem pretty caught up on the steelhead fishing. So what are you doing when you're not going and chasing these guys?
When I'm not chasing, I'm doing bass tournaments.
Okay.
I have a bass boat, and I do bass tournaments all summer long. And then I even coach in the student fishing league. Gentleman started it. There's over 150 kids, but it's called the SFL, which is in Ohio. But he started that, and I helped coach in that. And that's fun to teach the next generation of what to do. You know, the one kid 2 years ago he had never caught a fish yet. I got him with me. He did very well. He even said, I'm going to win one, whatever else. He did win one. He got big bass and whatever else. And then last year I didn't coach him because I wasn't sure of the exact date of my surgery, because I actually had hernia surgery first because it was real bad. And they woke me up and said, John, we got good news and bad news. Good news, we fixed the left side. Bad news, you have.
Right side. Ha!
So you got to come back in a
course.
couple months. So that's what I did in January, and go back and do the other side. Yes. So, but I do bass fishing. I have a Skeeter ZX 200. In fact, my rods are all Kistler rods. They're made out of Texas. And I'm fishing local lakes. I'm up to Chautauqua and whatever, but I'm doing bass tournaments.
Very cool.
That's awesome.
That's great.
Greg, anything for John?
I just love your passion about, fishing out of a small boat and having a passion for steelhead. A lot of guys think of Lake Erie as walleyes only, and you found a niche down there that's, I think unique. And, to share a little bit of that information, we really appreciate it, because I know for a fact that some days you just get out there and you're like, you know what, let's just do something different.
Yeah.
This might be something to just go and try to tackle, even in a bigger boat could still get away with it. But, I just love hearing this little hand-to-hand combat with those steelhead, because they're just feisty.
They're a blast.
They
And I
are.
even have a lot of contacts that come down from Michigan because they've seen posts that I've made on. They have it's called OGF, Ohio Game Fish. I've made posts on there, and then on Facebook, and a bunch of different things. But guys come down from Michigan, and I'm like, why are you coming down? He goes, John, a good day up there is maybe 2-3 fish.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, ours may be bigger than yours, but you're catching 30 and 40 in a day.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep.
The thing I like about what you're saying, though, we get a lot of people that touch base with us that want to get into the trolling game, and maybe they don't have a boat that can handle the water. Maybe they don't have a ton of electronics. But really, what you're telling me, what you're describing, is something that if somebody wants to start trolling as a beginner, like, it sounds really beginner friendly.
I mean, you can even use a 16-foot boat or a 14-foot boat. Maybe there's some days you can't go on the outside of the wall. You can fish the inside of the harbor, or fish the slip area, which is very well protected, or go up the river. At Conneaut, you can go up a mile. Each river, Conneaut, Ashtabula, the Grand, you can go at least a mile up the river.
Yeah.
And there's maybe a few people or nobody at all. There's times at Conneaut, I'm fishing in maybe the middle of November. I'm the only boat there on a Wednesday.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I got the whole place to myself. And I'm catching fish after fish, and
Yeah.
nobody around.
Life is good.
Yeah. That sounds tough. John, anything else you wanted to talk about before we let you go here today?
No, just, people ask me, why do you do so good? I said, I've been doing it for years. And they'll say, well, I'll go up and I'll catch a couple until maybe 10 o'clock, 10:30. And, I've learned over the years, especially when you get clear water, you got to make adjustments all day long. What I use it from 7 o'clock to 9 o'clock is not the lure that I'm using from 11 to 1.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things I've learned is even though you make bright lure or flashy lures, steelhead, when that water is really clear, maybe from 10 to 2, they become chrome shy. They don't like that flash. So sometimes say, we're going to throw it out there, you were using blue and chrome. I'll use a lure that's blue and gray. And guess what? I'm still catching.
Yeah.
So there, things to think about. And then another thing too is a lot of people just keep throwing it out all day. If I see seagulls or I see fish breaking the surface, I'm going to shorten them lines up. I don't see anything, I'm going to let more line out. Same thing in the river. If I go in the river, I don't see any porpoising or whatever, I'll maybe let more line out. Or if I'm going up the river and I see porpoising and all of a sudden I don't see it anymore, I know I've passed them up and they went back the other way.
Cool.
So you do got to pay attention. You do got to, watch, and then kind of remember, hey, when I caught them, the water looked like this, and I used this lure and I did good. Remember that, that the next time that situation pops up,
Sounds like your
Very
tournament
good.
bass fishing mentality kind of takes over on that,
Well,
right?
Yes.
Got to make something happen when nothing's happening.
Actually, I've taken some stuff from steelhead fishing to the bass, and one of the things I learned was, you have a lot of these different baits. Some of them have metallic flake in them, and some of them don't. There's days I've learned bass don't want metallic flake. I'll use maybe a green pumpkin with black flake in it, which does nothing, and whatever. And then there's other days I found we'll take a D-bomb destroyer with the green pumpkin flash. And I mean, you throw that thing in there and they just start hammering it. And other days they won't touch it. And a lot has to do with the same thing as with the steelhead. They don't want that flash. There's days it bothers them and days it doesn't. And I don't know what makes the difference. I just know, on a bright sunny day, I change lures a lot more than I do on a cloudy day.
Gotcha.
On a cloudy day, you're more consistent. You can kind of fish somewhat the same thing all day and it will work. But it's the sunny day that makes you have to work for it.
All right.
You have
Well,
to-
John, I appreciate you stopping by. You came by and talked to us earlier
Thanks, John.
today.
Appreciate it, man.
Introduced
Absolutely.
yourself. It was a lot of fun talking to you.
Absolutely.
Like Craig said, we can tell you're passionate about this, and it comes through. And